Our distinguished Chief Justice, Justice Uday Lalit, family members of Justice Lalit, including his gracious spouse, Mrs. Amita Lalit, my brother and sister judges on the bench of the Supreme Court, respected former judges of the Supreme Court, Justice B.N. Agarwal and Justice Gopal Gowda, the learned Attorney General for India, the learned Solicitor General of India, President and Vice President of the Supreme Court Bar Association, other office bearers of the Supreme Court Bar Association, President and office bearers of the Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association, senior advocates, members of the bar, and the officers of the registry. I think most of you in this audience would comprise of people who have either briefed Justice Lalit, appeared with him, I wouldn't say opposed him, but I would say appeared against him. I can share a part of that honor with you. I had the privilege of sitting with him when he joined Mr. Sorabji's chambers, when I would brief Mr. Sorabji as a young lawyer traveling from Mumbai. I had the privilege of opposing or appearing against Justice Lalit in one appeal which came out of a dismissal of a district judge in Maharashtra, where the Bombay High Court had held against us and directed reinstatement with back wages. But there is something more which I must tell you and must share with you without a sense of reservation, which I share with the learned Chief Justice, which you don't share with him. And that is that the relationship between our families travels a long, long way in time. I dare say even before we were both born. Justice Lalit's father, a very respected senior counsel and a doyen of the criminal bar, Shri Umesh Lalit, moved his career from Solapur to Mumbai, and he was then referred to as a junior and worked as a junior in my father's chambers on the appellate side of the Bombay High Court. So our relationship really traces its way back much before we joined the bar and much before we had the first cognizance of our own senses. Appointment to the Supreme Court is an honor, but it can be also daunting for judges who come from the high courts like I did. And there is a reason for it. Assignments in the high courts, particularly in the large volume high courts like Mumbai, where I was a judge for 13 years, or in Allahabad, where I was Chief Justice for nearly 3 years, are subject specific. So what happens in these assignments is that when you are presiding over the commercial court, you do commercial cases. When you are the company judge, you do company cases. When you do writs, you only do writs. In Allahabad, you may do writs only on the revenue side or on the service side, even more specialized. Or you would do criminal revisions. You might be a judge presiding over the direct tax roster or the indirect tax roster. So you know that for the next 4 or 6 months that you do the roster, you are tied down to that particular task. You become specialized, but you also become a little complacent, that you tend to know a lot. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, has its own work rhythm, its own cycle. Or for those of you who are musically inclined, its own cadence. You have to deal with everything from the insolvency and bankruptcy code to serious crime, to appeals against statutory bodies, to the Constitution, to the environment, to consumer protection, to service and labor. You have everything under the sun from different states coming into your plate every day. I must confess with you that I came to grips on my understanding of the nature of criminal work and practice sitting with our Chief Justice, Justice Lalit as he then was. I understood from him the nuances of the procedure and the substantive law governing criminal law. I found, while sitting with him over an extended period of time, that our Chief Justice was collaborative, always turned to the judge sitting with him to ask him what he felt about the case. He was always consultative, discussed issues with the judge. But above all, and I think that is the heart of being a good judge, he was compassionate and is compassionate. I can share with you only one small example. Everyone reads about what the Supreme Court decides in the big ticket reported judgments. But there are unreported hearings which we conduct every day which tell us a lot about the personality of our colleagues on the bench. Justice Lalit and I decided a matter pertaining to engineers from the then state of Jammu and Kashmir. Unfortunately, we had to hold against them. While we held against them, we had a little bit of sadness in our heart that we had turned out of our doors people who should have perhaps been protected, but the law was dead against them. So we had to dismiss their appeal. We got the ever-present miscellaneous applications. Usually the instinct would have been, well, why have you come back? We've already dismissed your appeal. Justice Lalit turned to me and while we were hearing one of the miscellaneous appeals and said, in Marathi, "Yanchaसाठी काहीतरी करायचंय. We must do something for them." So we tried to weave our way into the framework of our own judgment to give some relief, some opportunity for the future for these young engineers who had come from Jammu and Kashmir. That really so beautifully reflects his personality. Now I'll share a secret with you, which I hope he will not mind my disclosing to you. Because just the other day, when we were having a cup of coffee in his chamber, the Chief Justice shared with me a conversation with a former Chief Justice of India, which left a deep imprint on his mind as a young lawyer. And the conversation was about how should a judge read a brief. And the Chief Justice told me that the judge told him that the purpose of a judge reading a brief is to meet the lawyer and not beat the lawyer. Now, everything that we say tends to get reported in the social media, so I must correct myself as soon as I have made that statement. What the former Chief Justice meant about meeting a lawyer was meeting a lawyer intellectually. And what he meant to say about not beating a lawyer was not being aggressive. There's nothing adversarial between the bar and bench in the proceedings which go along in the court. So both of us in that sense have a shared tradition. The large gathering today, I believe, which is showering all this praise and affection on our distinguished Chief Justice, is not just an accolade to your lawyering and to judging, but also to the remarkable leadership that you have shown as the Chief Justice of India, as well as for the work that you have done which has uplifted our institution. Personally, as your successor, I'm conscious that I have very big-sized shoes to fill because you have really raised the bar for the Chief Justice. Justice Lalit's career from his time as a lawyer has been a reflection of his dedication to public service. Obviously, there's a big monetary sacrifice when a member of the bar accepts judgeship for the Supreme Court. But you don't accept judgeship ever for the monetary rewards or the perquisites which are attached to the office. They can be all in vain if you don't be true to the call of conscience which leads you to these offices. Justice Lalit served as a member of the Supreme Court Legal Service Committee for 2 terms. He was CBI Special Prosecutor in all the 2G matters. He was one of the most favored amicus curiae in the court. Served in multiple landmark matters including vehicular pollution, forests and the pollution of the river Yamuna. I've heard stories about how Justice Lalit appeared in almost every high court and how in those days, when there were no virtual hearings, he would appear in multiple courts in the same day, located in different locations. I dare say that if the then Chief Justice had appointed me as chairperson of the E-Committee when Justice Lalit was at the bar, he would have had multiple screens on his desk to conduct multiple hearings. Along with the sincerity, the knowledge and the experience he has brought from his journey as a lawyer to the bench, as well as the Chief Justice of India, everything has really benefited our institution. His judgments on wide-ranging aspects of the criminal law, including the death penalty and the scope of criminal appeals, will continue to mirror a reflection of who we are as a society and what we profess to be for the decades to come. His demeanor on the bench has been an example for all of us on how we can remain calm even in the most stressful of solutions. In a sense, it reflects Justice Lalit's temperament, a yearning to reach out to unheard voices. He is, as my mother would say, a sthita prajna. When you sit with him on the bench, there is an all-pervading sense of calm which he exudes and which reflects onto his colleagues as well. On the administrative side, Justice Lalit has been committed to increasing access to justice, not just during his tenure as a Chief Justice of India. Even earlier, while serving as a chairperson of the National Legal Services Authority, he has performed an amazing job in encouraging initiatives to increase the reach of justice at the grassroots level. He expanded the reach of NALSA by reaching to the remotest parts of the country. Through these initiatives, he has rolled the wheel in helping us transform the image of our institution from a colonial justice delivery system to a system where people have to be reached out to. He has transformed the justice delivery system's image from a system which has to be reached out by people to a system which reaches out to people. Under his leadership, the first All India District Legal Services Meet was organized, which created an opportunity for judicial officers from across the country to interact, share their experiences, best practices, and demonstrate their commitment to the legal aid movement. As the Chief, despite the limitations on his time, he has been kind enough to hear everyone, take multiple steps to provide solutions while prioritizing consultation and deliberation. We have all seen the manner in which he has prioritized the listing of important constitutional cases, how he ensured accessibility to these hearings for the general public by live streaming them. We have also been witness to his work on streamlining the listing process, improving transparency in the registry, and decreasing pendency. During my tenure, I hope to provide continuity to all the good work that Justice Lalit has begun, Chief Justice Lalit has begun. Institutions are strengthened only when individuals work together, and I am grateful to Justice Lalit for having provided the leadership that he did during his tenure. His tenure as a judge and as a Chief Justice of India has been marked by a very close collaboration and cooperation with the bar. I think that sense of continuity and stability which it brings to our institution must continue to remain. I can only humbly say that that will be my endeavor as well. Chief Justice, I congratulate you once again on this remarkable career. I hope you will continue to enrich and provide leadership to our profession.